All right, so for this problem, we're going to calculate all these measures by hand. So we have our list of data values, and we have to calculate the mean, the median, the mode, and the standard deviation. So always the first thing that you should check is whether your data values are ordered from least to greatest, and these are. And then for the mean, what we have to do, we have to add them up and divide by how many there are. So add up 19, 22, 26, 27, 29, 31, and 33 times 2. Right, so my sum for the mean is 220, and then I'm going to divide it by 8. Okay, so the mean that I have is 27.5. All right, the median is, so we've already checked to see that the data are ordered from least to greatest, and because there's 8 values in the data set, that means we are going to be, for the median, we're going to have to average the 2 numbers in the middle. So the 4th value and then the 5th value will need to be averaged together. So that's the process for finding the median when you have even number of values. 27 plus 29 divided by 2. 28. All right. Then the next measure is the mode. And the mode, you want a list of the number, the value, if there is one, that repeat more often than others. And so the only number like that is 33, because 33 appears more often than any other number. Now, just to reiterate, the last measure that's not mentioned here is the mid-range. The mid-range is another measure of center. And to find the mid-range, what you would do, you would actually average the smallest value and the largest value. So, of course, this problem doesn't ask you for the mid-range, but just as a review, I want to also find the mid-range. 19 plus 33 divided by 2. The mid-range would be 26. Just an FYI. Okay, but it does ask us to find the standard deviation. So that's quite a lengthy measure, and I'm going to calculate it by hand on the next slide. So standard deviation does need us to know what the mean is. So we do know the mean is 27.5, so we're going to use that in our calculation of standard deviation. Okay, so the mean is 27.5. That's the first step in the process of finding standard deviation. You have to know the mean. Second step is to find the deviation of each data value from the mean. So what I would do is I would subtract the mean from the data value. So 19 minus 27.5 is a negative 8.5. Then 22, take away 27.5. It's a negative 5.5. So all I'm doing here is just subtracting my mean, which is 27.5, from every single data value and listing out what I get. Then 27 minus 27.5 is a negative 0.5. Then 29 minus 27.5 is 1.5 positive. Okay. 31. Yeah, 31. Next, minus 27.5 is 3.5. And then 33 minus 27.5 is 5.5. And I have two of those, so there's two deviations that are 5.5. Now, the thing about these deviations, if you were to add them all together, they should all add up to 0. So that's kind of one way to make sure your deviations are correct, if you want to check that. So I'm going to check that. So 5.5 plus 5.5. I'm just adding up all my deviations that I got to see if they all cancel out. Just to check myself before I go on. Oh, wait. Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Good. All right. So these are my deviations. The third step is to take these deviations and square them. This is why it is nice to use a calculator function, but we're going to go ahead and do this by hand just to show that we can. Remember, the negative times the negative always will give you a positive. So 8.5 squared right over here, 72.25, then 5.5, the negative 5.5 squared is 30.25, 1.5 squared, negative times negative gives me a positive, and then it's a positive 2.25, and then it's a positive 0.25 squared, 0.25, and then again 1.5 squared was 2.25. Okay, and then 3.5 squared is 12.25. Almost. 5.5 squared is 30.25, and there's two of them. There's two. Okay, so what I did is just I squared every single deviation that I have. Okay, the next step is to add up those deviations, the square deviations, 72.25, 30.2. So I'm just adding everything up that I have at the top. Okay, so it looks like I got 180. Okay, as my sum. All right, then the next step is to divide that sum by one less than how many values there are. So I know that there are 8 values, so I'm going to divide by 7. I got the sum to be 180, so this is the sum of square deviations. I'm going to divide by one less than how many numbers there are. I'm going to divide by 7. I get 25.71. Now for now, because I still have a one last step where I have to take a square root, I'm not going to round. I'm going to leave as many decimal places as I can here at this point. And now when I take the square root, I can take a square root of of 180 divided by 7. All right, so my final answer is rounded to one decimal place, 5.1. Okay. Whew, all right. So let's try to enter all this stuff in. Now, what were my answers before? So the mean was 27.5, the median was 28, mode was 33, and we found our standard deviation to be 5.1. Okay. Well, let's see what happens. Yay. Okay. All right. And I'm also going to include the video that will help you how to calculate standard deviation with your scientific calculator, so that why it's a little faster.